guys, I'm Christy Vanover from Girls Can Grill. I'm here with Cowboy Charcoal today, and we're going to be making a prime rib. This is a beautiful piece of meat to cook for any holiday or any time you want to have a fun get together in your backyard. We're going to smoke this today at 250, and then we're going to crank up the heat at the end, get all the way up to 400 so we form a nice bark. But first we're going to trim this out. So if you take a look at your prime rib, you see right here, this is the spinalis. This is the fat cap of the meat. This is the most flavorful part. It's my favorite. Right in here, this is the eye or the fillet of the ribeye. This is a 3-bone ribeye. I like the bones because it's going to give us some extra flavor, but what we're going to do when we trim this is we're actually going to separate the bones from the meat just a little bit so we can stuff some of that rub down in there. Let's get started. This right here is the tail. I'm actually going to trim off some of this tail. I'm going to use my little bit larger knife here to really dig in and get in here. If you want to get fancy, you can French the bones. All right, getting off some of that fat there. One of the important reasons for getting rid of this fat is that once we put the rub on, it's actually not going to penetrate through all that fat to get to the meat, and we want to flavor the meat because that's going to be the best part of this prime rib. So let's get down in between these bones here. Run it right down there, but we're not going to go all the way through because, like I said, we want this to stay on. This is going to help add some flavor, but we want to get under here. This is where we're going to add some of that rub. I'm going to continue trimming out just some of this fat here, just because this is the hard fat that doesn't really totally break down. All right, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to get a little bit more of this fat right on top. All right, I think we're ready to mix up our rub. Let's move all this to the side. Now that we've trimmed up the ribeye, we're going to put on some clean gloves. We're going to make this rub. I'm using a really herbaceous rub. It's going to be full of garlic, rosemary, and thyme. And start with some olive oil. This is actually a wet rub. So if you were to do a dry rub, that would be if you were just going to use some dry seasonings, but we're going to make a wet rub instead because we've got some other wet ingredients. So I've got the olive oil, got about 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. This is some fresh thyme pulled straight off of the vine, as well as some rosemary that I just chopped up with some scissors. For the flavor, I'm using my brisket rub. It goes great on all things beef. If you can't find this, you can choose any type of beef rub. I'm going to do about 3 tablespoons in here. And then I always like just a touch of allspice. I like to make prime rib over the holidays, and it just gives a little bit of that extra little holiday flavor. Mix all of this together until it's all wet, and then we're going to get it rubbed all over. Now, I trimmed up this prime rib earlier, but if you don't feel comfortable trimming the prime rib, just talk to your butcher. They'll trim it up there for you. You also have options when buying a prime rib. There's different types of grades of meat. So we're using a choice today. Even though it is called a prime rib, it doesn't have to be prime beef. Choice is going to be a little bit less expensive, more budget friendly, but this is going to be delicious, especially with this rubbed on. So we're just going to take a nice handful. This is why I wear the gloves, because it gets a little bit messy. Just rub it all over. As I mentioned, this is why we did this cut. We're going to open this right up, and we're going to just rub this right in here. All of this flavor is going to help flavor not only inside the meat, but also help create some bark. So when you slice into this at the end of the day, it's going to be really delicious. All right, let's not forget the sides. Again, just rub it evenly on here. We'll get this other side as well. And then any of the pieces that fall on the board, don't forget about those. You can use all of this as well. And that's where we're going to get right here and just hit it on this backside. You don't really have to season the bones underneath because we're not going to really eat this part. Those will get cut off later. I know some people like to gnaw on the bones, but they'll get enough flavor as the meat cooks down. All right, we're going to let this rest for about 2 hours, and then we're going to put it on the grill. All right, this delicious prime rib has been resting for 2 hours. Let's get it on the grill. We've got the cowboy charcoal in here. We're using the garlic and onion briquettes along with some cherry and hickory wood. We're gonna let it smoke at 250. This is about a 7 or 8 pound prime rib, so it's gonna take about 2.5 hours. All right, it's time to check on the prime rib. Rule of thumb is if you have about a 6-pound prime rib roast bone in, it's gonna take you about 2 hours for this first step, and then about 30 minutes extra for every pound over. We've got an 8-pounder in here, so it's been on here for about 2.5 hours. Let's take a look. The color is looking great. That's courtesy of some of that cherry wood. Nice, we are right around the 110 mark, so what that means is it's time to crank up the heat. We're gonna really form that crust creation. So I'm going to turn this up to 400 degrees. One of the important things to note is that we are cooking over indirect heat. This grill has a plate underneath which keeps the fire from reaching right up to the grill grate. If you're cooking this on any other type of grill, make sure you do the indirect setting. Otherwise, you do have a chance of getting some flare-ups, but we should be good to go on this Masterbuilt. Okay, we have finished the sear stage on this prime rib. We cranked it up to that 400 degrees. That was so that we could create this beautiful crust on here. Let's take a quick check of the temperature. Nice, it's close to 130. That's about the point I like to pull it off. It's gonna be medium rare still, but that's okay. It's gonna rest and it's gonna get about 5 to 10 degrees warmer as we let it rest. I like to use a big spatula to help me get this big boy off of here. There we go. And check out these Hasselback potatoes we got going on. We've got another video for that coming out. It's really important that you let this rest because all those juices are super active right now. So I'm gonna just tent it with some foil just to help keep it warm. Tuck these edges in just a little bit, but I do wanna leave some airflow in here because I don't want it to keep cooking too much. But if you let it rest, all of the juices are gonna like redistribute back into the meat, so every slice is gonna be delicious. We're gonna let it sit here for a good 20 to 30 minutes. All right, it's time to slice into this. We've been letting it rest for a good 30 minutes or so. Now remember how we separated the bones a little bit? We're gonna slice right down here first. It's gonna make slicing a whole lot easier. Don't throw this part away. This part's delicious. You know someone in your family who's gonna wanna eat these bones. I'm gonna just set these aside. And now let's slice this roast. Little potato guy in the way there. Check that out. So we cooked this to about 130, 135, let it rest. It's gonna start to bloom. It's gonna be perfectly beautiful, that bright pink that you're used to with prime rib. If you've got someone in your family who likes it well done, I definitely do, it's okay, just throw their piece right back on the grill and get it well done for them. But make sure you cook yours to medium rare if that's how you like it. Also, the inside's gonna be a little bit more rare than the outside. The outer pieces are gonna be a little bit more closer to well or well done depending on your final cook temp. But this is looking gorgeous. All right, we're gonna add a little pop of fresh sea salt. Just makes everything look a little bit more beautiful. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Christy Vanover with Girls Can Grill. We've been cooking with cowboy charcoal today. You can find this full recipe at cowboycharcoal.com. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Until next time, keep cooking with Cowboy.